everyone, good morning.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Hi! Once again, good morning. So for today's video, we will be having a discussion regarding the summary of the whole LPs by this term. But before that, we would like to introduce ourselves individually. So anyway, I am Rosalie N. Arroyola.
I am Lady Candagatan.
And lastly, I am Rachel Ramos, so let's start.
In this lesson, we talk about the different learner-centered theories of learning, a learner-centered approach, views active agent, they make their own knowledge, past experiences, education, and ideas, and this impacts how we take on board new information and learn. It differs significantly from a traditional instructor-centered approach. Now, we have an overview about theories and what is it all about.
So, overview, learning theories, although there are many different approaches to learning, there are three basic types of learning theories. Theory of behaviorist, cognitive constructivist, and social constructivist. This section provides a brief introduction to each type of learning theory. The theories are treated in four parts: a short historical introduction, a discuss of the view of knowledge proposed by the theory, an account of how the theory treats learning and student motivation, and finally, an overview of some of the instruction methods promoted by the theory is presented.
We have three learning types of theory, which is the behavioral, social, and constructivism. In this lesson, we all have the types of learning and the nature of theories, which all of it has view of knowledge. View of learning and the nature of theories, which all of it has view of knowledge. View of learning and reinforcement. View of motivation and implications for teaching absorbed by the students. These three are the valuable aspects in this learning type, since all of it has knowledge repertoire of behavioral responses to environmental stimuli. Knowledge systems of cognitive structures are actively constructed by learners based on pre-existing cognitive structures. A knowledge that constructed within social context through interactions with the knowledge community. Passive absorption of a predefined body of knowledge by the learner promoted by repetition and positive reinforcement. Active assimilation and accommodation of new information to existing cognitive structures. Discovery by learners is emphasized. Integration of students into a knowledge community. Collaborative assimilation and accommodation of new information. Extrinsic, involving positive and negative reinforcement. Intrinsic learners set their own goals and motivate themselves to learn. Learning goals and motivates are determined both by learners and extrinsic rewards provided by the knowledge community.
In this lesson, we will talk the topic which is about child, adolescent, and adult learning. It represents the principles of cognitive development of a child, the way a child development proceeds in an orderly and predictable pattern. A periods of rapid growth starts in between periods of slower growth. The different individuals develop of different rates, and the way development is continually affected by both nature, heredity, and nature environment. A person has different learning point, either a child, an adult, or even adolescent.
The main learning point of this will be explained. First, a child learning point was they learn by observing, listening, exploring, experimenting, and asking questions. Being interested, motivated, and engaged in learning is important for children's once they start school. It can also help if they understand why they are learning something. And as your child gets older, he will enjoy taking more responsibility for his learning, or his and her learning, and getting more involved in making decisions about learning and organizing activities. Second is the adult learning, which for them, adult learning is voluntary and intentional. The aim of adult education is the independent, self-directed learner. Adults tend to resist a learning process which is incongruent with their self-concept as autonomous individuals and does not correspond to their needs and interests, while adolescent learners are a study in contradictions. Teenagers yearn for freedom to make all their own decisions, yet they don't always play the sound judgment needed to do so. Adolescents are often risk takers, but most teens are also racked with fears about looking foolish and keep up a fiercely protected image, even as they strive to assert their individuality. They seek emotional safety and a sense of belonging. Articles in these issues give educators clues on how to teach adolescents while keeping these students' conflicting needs and learning tendencies in mind.
Now, those three mentioned person will always have an educational implication for teaching, especially on adult learners. So adults tend to be more motivated than youth. Yes? And remember that they choose to take your class, and adults are goal-oriented. They have clear objectives for attending a course. So show them objectives of the course, invite them to share their objectives and make them part of the plan, and maintain their motivation through varied and relevant activities.
This topic includes declarative, procedural, and functional knowledge. These are the main terms of this lesson on how important knowledge in the perspective life of individuals. In terms of declarative, it is usually explicit knowledge, meaning that you are consciously aware that you understand the information. Second was procedural. It is knowing how to do something. Think of the word procedural. Its root is procedure, which is an action, and lastly, the functional knowledge, which is the knowledge that can be included in different domains. Knowledge which may be efficient in every domain is called domain-independent knowledge or functional knowledge. Instantly financial processes, order-to-cash processes, procure-to-pay processes, all of these terms are connected to the learning of individuals since those terms are essential to the learners.
So this topic includes other way of classifying knowledge, such as skills and practical competence. The next level of knowledge would be enable people to perform something in practice. Wisdom was the third and the highest level. At this level, people had the sufficient knowledge, skills, and competence to make right decisions and implement wise and insightful measures that will benefit themselves and for society. So whatever your definition of knowledge, it should be evident that to cram a text is not good enough for studies at higher levels.
So this structure discusses the relationship between our views on the understanding of knowledge and the way we decide to teach. Teaching is a highly complex occupation which needs to adapt to a great deal of variety in context, subject matter, and learners. It does not lend itself to broad generalizations. Nevertheless, it is possible to provide guidelines or principles based on best practices, theory, and research that must then be adapted or modified to local conditions. Our underlying beliefs and values, usually shared by other experts in a subject domain, shape our approach to teaching. These underlying beliefs and values are often implicit and are often not directly shared with our students, even though they are seen as essential components of becoming an expert in a particular subject domain.
Now, for the next lesson is about social interaction, interpersonal relation, and communication in the learning process. To begin with social interaction, whereas its role in the learning of students to help organize their thoughts, reflect on their understanding, and find gaps in their reasoning as they have their interaction with other students or people. As the following are the most common forms of social interaction: exchange, competition, conflict, cooperation, and lastly, the accommodation.
Next is the interpersonal relationship. It involves social associations of two or more people that could establish and influence love, solidarity, work relationship, and more. That is according to the choice and will of an individual.
Now, for communication, this is where two or more people exchanging of informations. Having good communication means having the ability to listen to others as well as to be able to relay their own ideas and opinions successfully.
Having a research is very essential in playing an important role in discovering solutions to the things that we are curious about and still unknown. This would bring gaps to be filled and gain essential knowledge as it is conducted and achieved.
This is why researchers have conducted research regarding influences of development and social cultural dimensions of learning in order for them to attain information and provide the practitioners a knowledge they could use to analyze and evaluate ways to develop and apply learner-centered methodologies and approaches to their teachings.
The following are the factors that researchers find as influence of developmental and socio-cultural dimensions of learning: the parental involvement, the parenting style and child rearing, the provision for specific experiences at home, the peer influence, and lastly, the teachers.
In addition, according to Monter 2008, to improve and increase interaction between the teacher and the student, these important factors should be possessed and considered inside the classroom to improve the social development and learning. And those are emotional support, classroom organization, and instructional support.
What is professional reading?
So, professional reading, where it encourages us, future teacher, to investigate issue or problems that have arisen during our teaching experiences, and it allows us to search for solutions that will equip the knowledge and skills we already have.
Why is it important?
Well, it is very essential as it provide the teachers opportunities to develop and enhance their professional knowledge and practice so that they will able to improve the quality of learning and teaching in school or inside the classroom.
So in this lesson, we talk about the significance of developmental and sociocultural dimensions of learning in selecting and methodologies. In selecting strategies and methodologies. This chapter deals with presentation and discussion of ideas on methodologies and educational perspectives that can be deduced from the sociocultural theories of learning and the concomitant research findings which teachers and other practitioners can adopt in their respective classrooms.
Omrod 2015 listed down some educational implications of Vygotsky theory and other conceptual perspectives in which learners can think more effectively when they acquire the basic cognitive tools of various activities and academic disciplines, so that children learn and remember more when they talk about their experiences in culturally approved and appropriate ways. Children should have more opportunities to engage in activities that closely resemble those that they will encounter in the adult world. Some children often acquire better strategies when they collaborate or work with adults or complete tasks. Challenging tasks, especially when sufficiently scaffolded, tend to hasten cognitive development. This means that the teacher should provide as much support and aid. Technology-based software and application can effectively scaffold many challenging tasks and occasionally offer good alternatives to real-world activities and problems. Children's abilities should be assessed under a variety of work conditions. The assessment gives a teacher a good understanding of the developmental levels of the children and knows under what conditions they are most likely to accomplish the task.
So, in peer interactive instructional strategies, there is now a growing recognition of the value of having students work together for them to construct their meaning about the subject matter. And so, doing this they can explore, explain, discuss, and debate certain topics, either small or in big groups, so that they can work together and they have an essence to engage their distribution or to distribute cognition. So these are the benefits of peer interactive strategy that enables the learners or students to do the following they can to clarify and organize their ideas. So they tend to elaborate what they learn. They are exposed to others' views, widening their knowledge and perspective. They may discover flaws or inconsistencies in their thinking, do self-correction. They can gain more complex and sophisticated thinking and reasoning skills. They can also practice their argumentation skills which experts use to advance knowledge. They can acquire a more sophisticated view of the nature of knowledge and learning.
So in this lesson, we talk about the significance of developmental and sociocultural dimensions of learning in selecting and methodologies, in selecting strategies and methodologies. This chapter deals with presentation and discussion of ideas on methodologies and educational perspectives that can be deduced from the sociocultural theories of learning and the concomitant research findings which teachers and other practitioners can adopt in their respective classrooms.
So as mentioned earlier, the definition of intelligence draws from the different theories of intelligence. A study of different theories of intelligence will help us better understand nature, and we can get a lot of information. So the theory of Lewis Thurstone's, a primary mental abilities group factor in this theory, it is very important for teachers to know and understand, so that they will able to have to connect with their students and know their behaviors as well. So the intelligence of the students when the teachers have activities, this one may highly expectation that specific factors espoused and neither by Thurstone's nor the expression of teacher factor. So that is why it will help the teachers to do a task. So the theory of Edward Thorndike's multi-factor theory is one of the help teachers because one of the things that would help teachers because this theory has a level of asserts by their abilities. It is said that they have a mental ability to prove that or to require that the aggregate of different sets of abilities by the teachers.
We will continue to study the different theories of intelligence. The theory of Philip E. Vernon's hierarchical theory stated that in this theory, Spearman asserts just two abilities, are the specific abilities and general abilities in which will help the teachers to know what is intelligence or behavior having with students. While Thurston theory indicates that mental operations can be grouped and are bound also by a common primary factor in other hand, so that in this theory, there's a lot of levels of generality by all guide also with the teachers. Each individual are having a level by themselves as well as they learn by what they should do next. The theory of Cattle-Horn, fluid, and crystallized intelligence theory. This theory of intelligence will help this also for the teachers because crystallize their capacity by resulting from the experiences, learning, and environments so that it will help them to show their capabilities by doing a new environment. It will help them also to reasoning their abilities with students by having interactions. For them, it will gain more learning if teachers are more interactions with that students' fluid intelligence. In crystallized intelligence, this is one also help teachers by define problem-solving methods by ability to apply the problems so that it will increase throughout their lifespan.
In this chapter, we will tackle or talk about the children with special needs. So the special needs of the children require some special intervention and care at home or in the school. So dealing with children with special needs as a teacher, it's a challenge for us because teachers have to be extra flexible and creative in coming up with teaching techniques or strategies that will enhance the academic also for the children with special needs. And it's important to know the personal development of each student who are quite different in class to know their ways or their learning preference style in a majority way. So it is important also that teachers or other staff in school know their characteristic of their special children because for them to avoid bullying as a child with special needs.
In metacognitive difficulty, these difficulties, it is our memory that we can have a less capacity to remembering that information because these difficulties refers to one awareness of an ability to regulate our thinking, awareness that we have difficulty remembering people's names in social situations, and difficulty in processing oral language. A language processing disorder can effectively affect communication through spoken languages because people with having expressive language disorder have trouble expressing their thoughts clearly, while others who have receptive language disorder have difficulty understanding others and interacting with other people and as suddenly forget what a person was thinking about.
Lastly, we have difficulty with social perception. Students who did this difficulty or having this difficulty is the one that has to interpret social cues and signals from the other people. It was so hard or difficult for them to have or to perceive and interpret other people's feelings or even reactions. People learn about other feelings and emotions by picking up information they gather from physical appearance, verbal and even non-verbal communication. Also within language difficulty, this will happen if the parents are not monitoring their children or they don't teach writing so other children can't write or spell words much. They have a hard time because they don't pay much attention to their children. So that children struggle right away because they don't know how to write.
Our summary was based on our understanding in perspective lessons and I hope that we will discuss it well.
Of course, classmate. I know we discussed it well because we did our efforts to make it presentable as well as it is clear, just like our understanding based on our learning by the subject called Facilitating Learner Centered.
So you're right, Rachel. So I hope that all the audience that are listening are happy and gain knowledge by our discussion for this day. So, anyway, we will end this up and always remember that in facilitating learner-centered, it will help us focus on developing, understanding the material, and communicating mastery, and our learning over our learning process. So that we'll be able to learn material at a deeper level and begin managing our learning in ways that lead our autonomy and independence as learners. And that is all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you. So for my reflection, as a future teacher, all lessons in these books are very essential to be understood, applied, developed, so that I will be able to understand fully the pedagogical principles, process, and practices that are needed in facilitating learner-centeredness and other educational psychologies to be addressed properly. So, as a teacher, teachers' goals are always for the learners to achieve their full development, empowers them to become leaders, and has the ability to make decisions on their own. And as teachers, we are the one who will provide them a support all the way to their learning goals, or the goal of their learning. So being a teacher is not really an easy role because of many workloads you faced. But if you are passionate about this kind of job, every stressful day teaching some students doesn't matter at all. When you know that the results from a student success are irreplaceable.
So hello guys, in behalf of what I have understand based on the summary or based on the lessons given by our teacher, Mrs. Leslie Bachoncilla, I will give some insight on what I have understand about the book called Facilitating Learner-Centered. So from lesson 1 to lesson and until the last lesson is talk about the learning style and principle of an individual. And this will have a big impact. Especially most of the learners grow up in this modernized society. I will give my insight on what I have gained from those learning pocket topics. I will give my insight or reflection on how we're learning, acquiring the necessary skills and knowledge. It has the ability to improve individual values and understanding that gained from the certain information, where we have the condition to expose ourselves by achieving our goals towards in life. So that is why we independently encourage ourselves to learn something new based on what we have experienced throughout of life. So now that I am aiming also to study the context given, since it is crucial, especially that I will be soon to become a teacher. Honestly, I am not really smart, but at least I have the capability in enhancing myself with this kind of determination. So I have to gain knowledge, skills, and value to those specific information given to this context. So learning learning was very essential, especially to those students. It can help also to improve, and it helps to develop what was the need when I encounter people like them. I take an advantage learning with it. As individual, we have different ability when it comes to learning and understanding characteristics, but we have to encourage and motivate ourselves that there are people who is willing to facilitate us despite of all our failures. Meanwhile, this context or all the context that I have read, I have coped also that learning is a methodology of an individual, that that we as a student and as a future educator facing our obstacle from our chosen profession, we can use to improve our performance to have cooperative learning, professional development, differentiation, inquiry-based instruction, as well as visualization. With all of this methodology, it will help to bring all the academic concept to life with visual and practical learning experiences. It will help my students to understand how they schooling apply in the real world. And I will also set or I will also set or apply the high expectation as well as to know, especially to the other teachers, that they should always meet the expectation of the students. Through this, applying or setting the high expectation can use to help and improve students' performances. Why? Why it can help to improve students' performances? Because having high expectation cultivate an academic environment in the classroom by setting high them up in a level that they will gain some knowledge and skills from what was the teacher demonstrate to them, but not impossible expectation for the students. So you should, as a future educator, I should push my students to achieve higher standards, and they will eventually get there along the way. Offer lots of praise. Thank you.
My reflections from LP1 to LP9 are those lessons are very helpful, especially for me, because it takes a lot of time and information about this lesson, and I learned this through the different learning styles, and it will help this in my future profession. It reminds me of the best option, or when I handle the students in the future, it gives me a lesson to know more about what the learning styles when I teach them. In this case, students must meet their individual needs by knowing each of them. I learned that regardless of their learning styles, students learn best when I give them the freedom to work at their own pace and provide them many hands-on multisensory activities. This high level of engagement will help hold their attention and keep them focused on the task at hand even if there are distractions.